Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Full Quarter Podcast. This is your number one South African cricket podcast that discusses all things in South African cricket. This week we're going to be talking about the 4-day cup, 4-day series that started last week. Some interesting results. Good to see Dane Pete. If you saw the interview last week, he took a fifer in the second innings of the game against Limpopo. So that was really interesting. And there's a lot of things that are happening, and everyone's obviously trying to get themselves on the plane to New Zealand for those guys who are not in SA20. So we're going to talk about that later in the week. Today is the day after what I deemed on X to be a free hit. But we're going to talk about it. India, South Africa. That's what the show is going to be about, right? Cricket World Cup review. We were humiliated by India, and we're going to talk about the implications of what it means going into the semi-finals and potentially playing a final against them in Ahmedabad. So it's going to be interesting. So hang around. We also got some questions that we've asked out. Tim asked on X, which is at the bottom. Please do follow the Full Quarter Pod and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, we also have an audio version, which will be live after this as well. But it'll be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So you can follow there if you're a audio version. If you want to see our faces, we're also good too. Yeah. So that is it, right? Please follow us on X and everything else. And we're going to go through your questions because some interesting questions. So thank you very much for sending those through. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, despite the mauling we received over the weekend. Um, yeah, it was
So,
something. Uh,
so let me start here. Um, Remember in our World Cup preview show, I said it was a marathon, and in the axis of New Zealand, England, and India, we're going to lose two games, and in those two games, one could be we're going to lose two games. But I did say that in this World Cup, we're going to have a collapse. It happened yesterday. I don't consider Netherlands as a collapse. What I consider Netherlands was a complacency issue, right? And they actually did try get to the target, right? This one was a well, this one was a we're trying, but nothing's happening, nothing's working, and they are far superior than us. And I can say that right now. India are the best side in the World Cup, but you don't need to be the best side to win the World Cup. And you can only just look at the Rugby World Cup. They weren't the best side, but they made it in. They made it through, right? So that's my first line. My only issue was with yesterday, and this is the first question to you, Tim. I felt this was a free hit. We've qualified for the semifinals, right? We beat New Zealand. The Pakistan game went our way because thank you, Fakar Zaman, for doing an incredible job of probably one of the best innings in this tournament, right? And guys will tell us about Virat yesterday and everything else. We're in the semifinal. Your position is either one or two, unless if you lose to Afghanistan, right? So the question then is, this game against India is effectively felt like to me, and I know it's a World Cup, like a bilateral game. Like we're playing them outside of the World Cup. Yes, it's in the World Cup, but you're trying to gain information. And that's essentially why I called it a free hit, right? You can try new things, right? You can see if things change. So in my head, I'm thinking, I know Timber said he would have batted first, but had he won the toss, wouldn't have been a great idea. And I know South Africans are going to kill me for us to chase against India to see how it is and if we can do it. Right. So that was the one thing. And so that's what I thought yesterday's game was. I don't want to panic. I knew a big loss would cause still a lot of panic, and we're here and people are panicking, but I'd say don't panic. And it's a free hit because you have a chance to go up against the champ and try take them down. But we didn't. And we missed horribly. Tim, yesterday morning, before the toss or anything else, what were your thoughts about this game?
My thoughts were we could definitely beat this Indian side. As good as they are, and as much as they tick all the boxes and as they proved subsequently in the game, I think that overall I was quietly optimistic that we would make it a competitive fixture. I
Mm-hmm.
thought, I could see us winning, but I thought we would probably lose if India played anything like their potential, which would be okay. So I was reasonably confident that we could make it a competitive game under the understanding that we would probably lose if they played to their potential, which would be okay. That would be okay, just on
Mm.
that balance. But
Yeah.
obviously, what we saw was not okay,
Well, let's talk
and
about
yeah.
what we saw, right? The first turnovers were the first sign of pressure. And I was thinking about the Springboks in those first turnovers because I'm sitting there going, the Springboks would have absorbed that pressure, right? And they would have known that the game's long enough and for us to get through. Similar in that England semi final. England came hard at us. Even in France, they came hard at the Springboks. The Proteas, on the other hand, India came hard. Rohit and Gill were going at essentially the find of the World Cup for South Africa, which is Marco Jansen, right? Being able to bowl in the power play, taking the most wickets in the power play. And this time, they weren't able to get, well, Marco couldn't get wickets. He really struggled under the pressure. And the question was then with the South Africans is how are you going to continue? Were you going to fight back? How are you going to do that, Timber? And essentially, even though wickets were taken when they brought Kagiso in, it felt as though that India just kept on piling on the pressure. They were ahead in the eight ball, and in that entire bowling series, they did that, right? South Africa couldn't even take wickets in the middle overs. They really struggled. And it was that Shreyas Iyer Virat Kohli partnership, right? That just kept them going. And the question then is, and cricket's a momentum game, we couldn't wrestle it back. And effectively, I looked at the scoreline and I was like 345 from the way they started. I'd take that. It's still a winning score for India. But the question is, can we, with this batting lineup, batting with six players? Because essentially, when we bat first, we bat with seven. Marco Jansen is a very important addition. But when we're chasing, effectively, we're batting with six because you can't expect Marco to take you home with him being new in this role and young in this side. He's only 23 years old. So that's essentially how I look at this team. We lost the game in that bowling innings, probably in that partnership that what is it was 130-run partnership between Air and Kohli, where they were rotating strike. We couldn't get wickets, we couldn't get dot balls, and it was just that. And the gamble the Proteas took was Tabraiz Shamsi. Tabraiz doesn't bowl well against India, and he went for 7.2 runs and over in the middle overs, right? They tried Aiden, Aiden got taken out. And it presented problems for the South African captain. And yesterday, Timber couldn't necessarily account for it, right? And to a certain extent, those are the things that you do in a free hit, right? You try Aiden, you give Tabraiz a full opportunity against a team he's traditionally struggled against, even though he's bowled well in this tournament. So for me, I look at that bowling performance and say, we lost it there. My only question was in the dressing room halfway at the innings break, what are the South Africans planning? Because if the South Africans did it like Jonathan Trott with the chalkboard and taking off everything else, I'd have been understandable if we got to 250 and batted out the 50 overs. Because in my head it was just bat the 50 overs, right? Give it a good old try, because I know with this team, when they set, their mindset is batting 50 overs, which means that guys have more time than they need to. And it's 345. The one thing I didn't account for is how well India were going to bowl. But I still thought these batters, all six of them, could still do it. It's just the horror of all horrors. It turned into something very horrible. Tim?
Okay. I'm gonna slightly pivot, but
Yes.
I'm gonna remind listeners to all those references to the Springboks. Just put that there in a side in a little box. Just remember that for a second. Um, the South Africans lost us at the anthems. They lost us from the anthems because they were off from ball one. Janssen's first over, 3 wides.
Oh, yes.
One of his wides was second slip. The other wide was might have hit a leg slip. Leg slip might have caught it. They lost completely. In those first few overs, those first 5 overs, they were 62 for 1 after 6 overs. As much as the game plan from India was attack, it was. I'm not disputing that. What I'm disputing was we gave it to them. We said there's a free ball, hit it. We said there's a long hop,
Yeah.
there's a full toss, there's a wide ball, there's a wide, there's another full toss, there's another long hop, there's another short ball. That's half pace Harry. We gave it to them as much as their intent was to attack us. This was the way to beat South Africa. The problem was we beat ourselves. I firmly believe as much as their intent was there, we beat ourselves at those first 10 overs. Once those first 10 overs, once they got to 92 for 1, it was if, well, don't worry, boys, we've got a semi-final to go to. That's what it felt like for the rest of the game. It felt like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does. It does matter.
Oh, man.
This fixture can definitely come back. My worry is, you talk about the Springboks. Springboks have that mental strength in adversity. They have it. This Proteas setup, at the moment, don't have it. I want them to have it. I desperately want them to have it. If Shamsi had been given out RBW against New Zealand, just what position would we be in now? We would have to beat Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, yes.
We would have to win that game. Absolutely, 100%. And if our run rate had been as affected as our run rate is good, but did you see
it got smacked.
What happened to that run rate? It got spanked. The second thing, the batting. Once the first 10 overs there, so the first 10 overs in both 92 for 1 in India, we were 35 for 3. You are 100% right. The boys should have said, okay, the game's up, let's get to 250. The game's up, let's bat out as much of the overs as possible and get to as high a total as possible without being reckless. We don't need to be reckless. We just need to get to a good total. If Miller makes 60 or 70, fantastic. Janssen makes 30 or 40, fantastic. It shows that we don't down tools. I don't like to use that phrase, but to me, that's the way it looked. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm saying it looked like once the 10 overs were done in both subsequent innings, the team just said, okay, cheers. They just switched off. And my worry is, as much as the Springboks have that in them, at the moment,
the Proteas do not.
We don't have that. We don't have that.
Oh.
You saw that emotion from the game against New Zealand. It meant so much to get over that edge in that way. But a flip of a coin in terms of a umpiring decision,
exactly,
and we would be crapping ourselves, having to beat Afghanistan, which is not a game.
Hoping we win the toss.
It's not a gimme, that game.
And Tim and Tim has lost a lot of tosses. So let me clarify the whole free hit thing. The reason why I called it a free hit was I don't want to place unnecessary pressure on this Proteas side, right? It's a World Cup group game. In the grander scheme of things, right now at this World Cup, losing this game does not matter for South Africa, apart from the fact that either you're playing Pakistan or Afghanistan, right? But the whole point of us in this World Cup, and every South African will agree with me, is getting to the semi-final. That job was already done. So in and against an Indian side on Virat Kohli's birthday in the most iconic Indian stadium in the world, with 70,000 fans, or 58,000 fans, by the way, because Rob Walter kept saying 70 and it's 58. This team needed to understand that pressure is there, but it's not a win at all cost situation. If we lost if we got knocked out the World Cup in these situations, we'd use the C word, right? Because we got bowled out for 83. Yeah. And to a certain extent, I didn't want that to enter into the occasion. And so my thinking was, it's a free hit. Don't put pressure on them. Let them play. Let them enjoy. It's the one spot where you can enjoy playing cricket. You're playing in the best stadium in the world. The Australians will fight me. The English will fight me. But playing at Eden Gardens is a dream of every cricketer, right? Full house against India in the cauldron. When you have actually a batting lineup that can put them under pressure, and a bowling unit that can cause problems. But you arrive, as you say, at the anthems, and we just let it go. And you don't have that ability to wrestle it back. And the thing is with rugby is that it's a contact sport, right? You can't run away. You can't hide. And yesterday, the South Africans in that bowling performance were looking for spots to hide, and there were no places to hide. And my thing is, we needed to front up to it in a beautiful way. Rassi says pressure is a privilege. This Proteas team, I do not understand how they are wired in this way. And it's funny because we've gone through multiple generations, and the same Proteas team is giving us the same vibes. 1999, same vibes. We lost to Zimbabwe weirdly. That Australia game that we lost to in the Super Sixes, and then we got smacked with them in the finals, in the semi-finals, or we didn't smack us, but we know what happened. 2003, in a pressure spot, we don't rise to the occasion. 2007, we lost it at the anthems because the moment Sean Pollock bowled that first ball against Australia, it was over. The game, we're never in that game. And it reminded me of that, right? 2011, just drama ensuing. 2015, same thing. But 2015, we're in the game. We just let them, we just had a really bad 50 overs. But it's still the same thing. When pressure comes, the South Africa, whoever wears this badge ends up playing horribly. I don't understand. 2019, we never arrived in England. And now, in a spot against the best team in the tournament, right? A spot where you should be enjoying. A spot where 2 months ago, Australia were here. You're 2-0 down against Australia. You could have thrown in the towel and lost the series, but you went and won the 6-3 too. This is the most weird cricket team or setup, and it's not a CSA thing, because CSA are not the ones playing on the field.
No,
we're producing cricketers who are afraid of the spotlight in the brightest of moments. Even with the mental coach, Tim. We have a mental coach there now.
Coach. Yes,
you know, and so
I thought it was turned with that win against New Zealand. I was proven wrong. It's a work in progress.
Yeah. So for me, that I'm there, and I'm like, it's like the Springboks when they played Wales in the warm-up game, and they played New Zealand, and they did that whole 7-1. It was a free hit for them, but the Springboks were like, yeah, we're gonna hit them, and the Proteas took a free hit, it had a free hit, and they were like, "No, we don't want it." And yeah, it's disappointing. I'm really disappointed in everybody. All 11 can't put their hands up. They all disappointed us. You can't blame anyone. You can't. It was just bad. It was bad all along. India
You know
were
how many?
superb.
You know how many extra overs we bowled?
Tell us to.
Five. Five.
Exactly. You gave them
22
an extra
wides.
30 balls.
22 wides. India bowled. Guess how many? Two.
Yes.
2 wides.
But it's the discipline thing. It's how you arrive and how you do it. And I think this team fell into a sense of complacency in the free hit in well, I'm gonna call it a free hit, but I fell into a call. Someone said it's a free hit. They're like, nah, we just let's get through this. And when it got hard, they were like, well, we've got 5 hours, let's just get through this and get out of here. And I apologize for my wording of a free hit. It was a poor choice. I see this cricket team does not want free things. So every game is a must win. But my issue with this, and this is something for the Indian fans, right? You may have played well here now, and you're the best team in the world. But there's two things. There's two things, right? Coming out of that second semi-final at Eden Gardens, right? You better hope that team that comes out of that second semi-final is South Africa, because I don't think you will get a team that will win 11 games in a row to win a World Cup. If you do that, greatest team of all time. Because surely you'll lose along the way. And here's the other thing. You lose in your next game? Well, I don't think have they already played their 9 games. Just want to check, because that's the fun part. But my thinking is the other team you're going to play is either Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa, right? If it's Australia,
Yeah.
New Zealand in a final, and you've won 10 in a row, and I know you've beaten Australia, and you've beaten New Zealand, you've beaten South Africa, best believe they might come into Ahmedabad and steal that trophy from you, largely because it's a marathon, this thing, and you
That,
will lose along the way, right? And so that's the
yeah.
thing for me. That's the thing for me. And I'm okay
Just
with, so in the plan, if I'm Rob Walters, I'm like, the plan, we plan to lose 2. We've lost 2. We lost to the best team in the world. But the best team in the world doesn't necessarily win the World Cup. Move on. Take your minds off of it. The best golfers do this, right? Bad shot, it's fine, it's done, it's gone. Let's move forward. And Afghanistan's in trouble if in that thinking. But I know this team. Tim, a word on
just
Afghanistan. Yes.
I was just going to point out that India are playing the Netherlands on Sunday. That's their last game.
Oh, the mighty Dutch. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So a word on Afghanistan. Look.
So here's the thing. Here's my question for you on Afghanistan. They
Yeah.
win the toss. They bowl first, as they always do. Or do they win the toss? If Afghanistan wins the toss, do they bowl first? No, bat first. Bat first. Sorry, other way around.
Whatever they do, it has to favour their spin bowlers. If for them to win, they need to have a pitch that we played against India. If they play on that pitch, and the pitch turns like it did for India, they have got a fantastic chance of beating us. Monumental. If it doesn't, I think that their pace bowlers are better than some people suggest.
Oh no,
But
they have that left arm seamer. Oh my word!
Yeah.
Wow.
Fuzzle. He's very
Yes.
very good. But I think, as I say, they would prefer a pitch that takes turn. And a pitch that takes turn with Noah and Rashid Khan and Darby, it'll be another nightmare for us, particularly if we just had an absolute nightmare. It'd be nightmare on nightmare.
And then go into a semi-final on the back of 2 losses. Yeah, I don't know what will fix this, but we do need to win a high-profile game that matters in a knockout. And for me, was the thinking around. No, it's a free hit. The big game's coming up. We prepare for that, right? We put in processes in place to face India in a final and get through the semi-final, but this team does not want to do that. And maybe it's a lesson in Marco and this team getting humiliated, understanding that they need to fight back in some ways, but they didn't show us that. And that's the reason why this is the worst possible result for the Proteas, is that you couldn't even say, okay, guys, who can I throw the ball to when we're in trouble? Because the World Cup final, you'll feel like you're in trouble. They'll have like a 50-run partnership, and you're like, I need to break this. Who do I throw the ball to? Yes, we know one person, Kagiso. Who else? And what showed me on Sunday is that outside of Kagiso, there's no one else. And it's very pretty in games that don't matter, where Marco and Lungi and Gerald's the one guy who I might try. And I thought
Well,
we'd give him a run.
I don't have recording of this. I wish I did, because I'd be able to prove you all that I'm a genius. I said 24 hours before the game, don't play Shamsi. I said, don't play Shamsi.
Yeah.
I said, it's India. I don't care about spinning pitches. Don't
Yes.
play Shamsi. Gerald is in a purple patch at the moment. Gerald might be expensive. He gets wickets. Gerald gets wickets. And I do feel for Shamsi. But I just want to add, just if we've got enough time, it wasn't me again, but fantastic analysis. I think it was Ravi Sastry in commentary. He said, what is the point of having a mystery spinner if he has no mystery? And what he pointed out was absolutely spot on. He said every single ball that Shamsi bowls on middle to leg stump is going to the leg side, so they work to the leg. Every single ball. Every single ball that he pitched outside the off stump was a googly, so they left it alone or they cut it. There was no variety. So they were playing him off the pitch. There was no variety in terms of where he was bowling his deliveries. You knew exactly what he was doing. And that's why he got pasted.
Yeah. And it speaks to a guy who's just come recently back into confidence. So you could see he's bowling 2 stock balls, and he's using that to get himself. He's not trying different things, because the last time he tried different things, he had lost 18 months. That is indictment. That is really, really indictment. Okay, cool. We've got questions that Tim asked the people, and we're going to be answering them. So thank you very much for sending it through. We're going to start with Sam at Sammy5456, a great fan of the pod. He says, do South Africa bat second if they win the toss against Afghanistan and risk damaging their confidence further chasing? Or do they stick with heads in the sand and gamble on winning the toss and batting first in the semi-finals?
I'm going to have to go with the latter, purely because I think this team is a little fragile at the moment. They need a confidence boost, and that confidence boost comes from making 400 and borrowing the team out for 150. I know what Sam's saying, and Sam is right. Sam is right in what he's saying. I don't want to take that risk at that moment. That's my issue.
It's like going into an exam, and it's my late friend did this in our matric exam. We had 18 poems that we had to study in South Africa for our final exams for English, and you study all of them. He arrived on the morning of the exam and said, what poem was it? It was a weird poem. I think it was about a man in the sea, whatever it is. And he was like, that's the poem that's coming out. And we're like, what evidence do you have of this? And he's like, he just knows. And he only studied one poem. And luckily for him, on that day, that poem came out. And I thought he was some sort of Sangoma. But that's what the Proteas are, right? You're arriving at a game hoping you win the toss. And if you don't, you're just going to struggle your way through the paper. Hopefully you'll get 50% and you'll win. And that's what it is. And so for me, it's a bat first. The time for practicing, chasing is over. You got 3 games to win. Win all 3 games the best way you can. And yeah, it's It's
Yeah.
it's weird. But Reggie Delani at Reggie underscore Delani says ball first and chase will be too strong for Afghanistan either way. So yeah. And then the real cricket guy at the TRCG underscore 23, his question was, why do we struggle chasing?
I think it's it. I say this a lot on the pod. I say this a lot. I haven't said it for a while because we've been winning and we've been winning uh, in ways that we're not normally winning. As you pointed out,
Mm-hmm.
2-0 down against Australia, but it's mental. It goes down to the mental edge. I believe that we can win games chasing. I think we can. We've got the top six to chase 300, 320, 325. We have the team. We have the personnel. I genuinely believe it's mental. I really do believe that. I don't believe it's got anything to do with ability or the pitch or obviously pitch will be dependent if it's but I think it's largely
But
down to that mental confidence.
so Tim,
I believe
um,
I believe when the quick info says it comes up with a stat how appalling our chase record is, I believe they go onto Twitter and they read it. I believe that. I believe and they go, oh crap.
are you
Oh
serious?
god. Yeah.
So Tim,
Yeah.
I know. So like we've seen Afghanistan throughout the tournament, right? And they have their little whiteboard at the front, and everybody knows what the targets are, regardless of how high it is. Jonathan Trott invented chasing, reinvented chasing, it seems. Take the target, divide it by five, put it down. And the Afghanistan players have, in all their chases, done that to a T. And it's like if you follow this, you win. And I understand the quality of the Afghanistan players, who I think have some really good batters, right? Who, when left to their own devices, can do this themselves, right? But is it not a situation where South Africa needs to try and do something like that, and the whole country can see it, right? So you'd be like, okay, let's get to 50, because even with that target, right? If we were 60 for one after 10, I'd have backed this team to get there, right? Or if we were 150 after 30, 345 is not far away, right? If we play the Russell Domingo
Yeah.
cricket, right, where don't lose wickets, don't lose 2 wickets in the first 30 overs, just bat and bat and bat and bat, leave balls, dot balls, doesn't matter. Get to 30 overs with with 8 wickets remaining, and then you can attack, right? And
I,
to a
I,
certain
I, I,
extent,
I,
can't we do that?
in a general sense, so they made 326, I think it was.
Mm.
In a general sense, I agree. On that pitch, I think that was too much. I think 326 on that pitch, on the spin that they produced, I think that would have taken a Herculean effort. I think that we, in the first 10 overs and the last 10 overs of our bowling performance, screwed us. And that just basically said,
Yeah.
okay, fine, you're not going to win. I think in that pitch, 270 would have been a fair total. And yes, as I say, I genuinely believe we have the personnel. There's not like these hundreds of players desperately knocking at the door saying, I should be at the team. There really isn't. I'm sorry. There really isn't. This is the best 15 available for the setup, for the way we want to go. This is the best. It's not like we've got Amy DeVilliers and Faf du Plessis saying, pick me. They're not available. They're retired.
Oh,
They're gone.
we had that in
They're over there.
2019, and we know how that
I know.
happened, how that turned out. Armin, AARMIN, at deep underscore D17 says, thank you for the question. Do you guys have self belief of winning the semi, then the final, and be world champions?
I do. I'm not
The
sure they
thing
do.
is, the thing is, Armin, I do. Tim does. The rest of South Africa does. I don't understand what's going on in that team. I don't think they believe it. I do. I do think they believe it. I think they are just very wary and aware of their failings and their weaknesses. And when you have a person who's like that in any form in life and you attack their weaknesses, they're not going to perform. They're just going to fall away. And it's it takes a very strong mind mentally to say, yes, I can't do this. Yes, this is my weakness. But in spite of that, I will succeed. And that's where this team is not at right now, right? I do think they can win 2 games of cricket. They can in a row.
Yes.
The question is the
Yeah.
final. My worry is the final. If we win that semi-final, they will be so happy to be the first team to make a World Cup final that it's going to be like the World Cup final, the women earlier this year, when they got to the final and Australia set them a target that was chaseable with a bowling lineup that I thought was you could have attacked. They just also with it and were like, we're in the final, we made it something, and it became a massive thing. It's because we're not used to being in those moments. Whereas if we play Australia in the semi-final, watch how Australia are going to come at us. They're going to come so hard at us. And
Yes.
it's that mentality. I just don't know why people who wear this end up playing not believing at the first sign of pressure and buckling, because those turnovers went and I was like, yeah, fine, we go, they're done, we move. We can't get those runs back. All I can do is try to prevent more runs. But is there anybody in the team saying that? Is there anybody in the team calling people back and being like, hey guys, let's regroup? This isn't how it's supposed to go. And that's the problem about this team. I'm so afraid of that final. If we ever make that final, or when we make that final, that they will just be like, we made the final. We're the best team ever in South African cricket history because we made a final. But it's not enough. It's not enough for us, but I'm thinking it
No.
might be enough for them. And that's the fundamental issue about these cricket players. There's no higher expectation. Like with India, right? This Indian team knows they need to win the World Cup. The last time India hosted a World Cup, they won a 50-over World Cup. They won it. You can't come and not win a World
Anything.
Cup if you're Indian,
Yeah.
right? So
Anything less for them is a failure. Doesn't matter that they're the best
exactly.
team in the world.
And the same goes for Australia. Regardless of what's been going on, the
Yeah.
expectation in Australia is we're winners. Why aren't we in the
Yeah.
final? Why don't we have that? And that's the issue, right? And we don't. And someone was saying that our South African soccer team gets more bad press and flack from everybody, but this cricket team is being model coddled, and I think it's true. It's just they don't know how to win. And the South African soccer teams won a continental championship. Yes, it may have been like 25 years ago, but they
Yeah,
won.
but they still won it. They still won
You know,
it. Yeah.
whereas this cricket
Yeah.
team can't tell you anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope they have that mentality. We do on the Full Quarter podcast. If you can send me to India, I'll do that. I'd have actually gone on in the drinks with a bib and I would have been like, guys, this is not happening. We're not here to play games here. We're not here to be guys, it was so horrible. Optimus Prime says we mustn't be harsh on South Africa. India are too good for them. I don't think so. They are better, but they were too good. But I thought this team just didn't want to play cricket when they play
that
cricket.
performance deserved criticism. I'm sorry, it deserved criticism. It's one thing to lose.
Okay.
It's one not
Yeah.
not in that fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question from Vasim Akram at Vasim Vishal. Sending Miller at 4 to tackle spin. Is that an option?
No.
I know they like to do
No.
the left, right.
No.
But
Uh-uh.
it's a no for you.
No. No.
Okay. Because they're supposed to
He's
be better
like-
players of spin.
He's like god at number 5. He is just like so good at 5. Why would you change it? Why would you
Mm.
change something that's so good? No. So
Yeah.
that's see, what previously
Mm-hmm.
somebody like Clausen, that's what perhaps with Clausen. They would say, "Oh, Clausen's a talented boy. We can move him up and down." Clausen pre Rob Walter and Shukri is a
Mm.
very different kettle of it. He's a talented cricketer who flooded to deceive. Post this, now Clausen is a one of the best. He's currently one of the best because he's been given a designated role and they're sticking to that and he's flourishing.
Mm.
So there are times when you can do that sort of thing. This is not the time to be doing
They did it
fancy things like that.
against, was it New Zealand? Yes. But that was a whole left-right combination that they were trying to do. And Aiden,
Yeah.
no, which game did we win recently? Pakistan. Was it Pakistan or Sri Lanka? So many cricket games, guys. We played Pakistan. Yes. Left, right, left, right. David Miller came in at 4. Yes. That was, but I'm okay with, I want him at 5, but he can build an innings, and so I'm not worried. Love Cricket SA has a comment. He says Proteas were out of yesterday's match. I don't think batting first would have been made a difference in the result. They were mentally defeated. I think batting first would have. I think we wouldn't have been like 80 without loss, but we would have. It would have been like 60-50 for one, and we would have gotten to like 280 or maybe 300 based on how this team plays batting
It, it,
first.
it, it
It's
I,
chalk and
I, I,
cheese.
I, yeah, I still think if India had played like they played, I still think we would have lost, but it certainly would have been a lot more competitive. I think it would have
Mm.
been potentially a very close game,
The
potentially, had
bowlers
it happened, yeah.
would have copped like a whole lot of flack because everyone
Yeah,
would be like they lost us the game.
yeah.
Um, Ricky Rouse at Ricky underscore Ricky 01. I have a gripe with about how different conditions have been between day and night at the World Cup. Batting looks easy in the aftermath in the afternoon, but looks really tough at night when there's a lot more swing and spin. Is it the G
Variety
factor?
is good. Variety is good. Variety in pitches, variety in conditions is a good thing. If
Mm,
all the games and all the pitches were 350 plus, it would make for a very boring World Cup. So I'm pro that. I'm pro
okay.
that. You've got as a captain, you have got to manage that. I think when we were discussing England previously, I should have actually mentioned this. Um, I think they've managed that very, very poorly. They've gone to the different grounds and they've just said, this is our way, this is where we're going to play, and this is where we're going to be successful. Yeah, that's worked well. That's worked so well. They haven't accustomed to the conditions
Yeah.
at all well. So
But
I'm pro
isn't the bat
different, different
isn't it
conditions.
doesn't it need to be a balance because batting first seemingly gives you an advantage compared to batting second. We don't see a lot of teams chasing, and a lot of the games are day night games. And so, doesn't that bother you because they're not coin toss? If had we batted first and won, would we have said the same thing that
Yeah,
India got
look,
the worst of the conditions?
I don't have the stats with me. I did read them. Um, from what I could gather, it didn't look to me like it was quite like that. I think that you could make an argument for that, but I don't think it was quite as clear cut of you lose the toss, you lose the game. I don't think
Mm,
it's been quite that concrete. Um, but I do understand where you're coming from. I just don't think it's been quite
yeah.
that clear
Okay.
cut, shall we say?
Yeah, same here. It's just I think South Africa, but we're batting first is just chalk and cheese. It's two totally different worlds, and they've won more games they actually should have lost chasing. But just by the virtue that they blew the opposition away with the bat, and actually the conditions are a lot more even because there isn't a lot of dew. That was the other thing, right? So the only thing I could say is that if you're batting second, you spend 3 hours in the raging heat, and you probably your body's struggling to adapt, and so your opening batters have a much even better, a bigger um, task because your body's dehydrated largely, and you're now going out to bat to chase a score, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these collapses because a lot of these teams are strong at the top, and the like guys are tired. And it's the whole thing with Quinton de Kock and the whole New Zealand thing, right? It was, why do you want Quinton to come out to bat first when you can make him bat after he's fielded for 50 overs and kept wicket, you know? So that was the other thing. Um, Last question, or two more questions. A new Ayush Sinha 82 62 3 on X. At the end of the power play, it was clear that only South Africa could stop India. The only way South Africa could stop India was by bowling them out. While the bowling was right from Maharaj, the field sets didn't tempt Kohli an ear. The lack of attacking tactics is quite infuriating. Negative bowling from Shamsi was also baffling. I thought
I
Maharaj
think
bowled quite well, but
I
there's a point here.
yes, here's a very good point. So, we certainly haven't given Maharaj credit so far. I thought he bowled very very well in the conditions, but he's got a very good point. But it goes back to what I said earlier. After the 10 overs, we just said, okay, fine, you make what you want to make, and we'll just we'll see what we can do when we're back, kind of thing. Um, I do think that. I do think there are times, and I think it happened against New Zealand as well, where I think the captaincy was reactive, not proactive.
Mm,
I think most captains of the world. I don't think this is not a Timber thing. This is not an Aiden thing when he's captain. This is just I think this is a general thing. Captaincy is generally, I find, far too reactive. So absolutely, when Kohli came in, Kohli likes to get the ball onto bat. So bring the field in, ask him to hit over the top. If he hits it for six, well, he hits it for six. But he might miss time one. He's just come into the crease. He might chip it straight
mm,
to the mid-off guy on the circle. If you have got the guy on the circle, right at the boundary, you're just letting him get in. So that's, yeah, I do think that's true. I do think there wasn't enough thought in general in terms of how to get wickets. It was all about, let's restrict. So the best way to
yeah,
restrict is have
it's
people on the
Keshav.
boundary. Yeah. And
And have
obviously
Keshav ball.
Keshav.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Last one. Linamandla Mgua. Sorry. Linamandla Mgua at Linas underscore 95. Reshuffling the batting order when we chase. Should we consider it?
No. Because what are you then saying? So at the moment, our batting is firing on fire when we bat first. Why are you? They can make runs. They can make
Mm-hmm.
runs on the same pitch. They can make runs on that pitch, no problems at all. To then change tact, go take people who are scoring runs and say, no, today you're going to bat at 5, and you're going to bat at 3, and you're going to open the innings. I don't mind that in a very specific sense. So
Mm-hmm.
if we are behind the 8 ball and we need quick runs, you don't put Russie in. You don't. You just don't. So what you do is you say to Marco, okay, Marco, go and make 20 or 14. From that perspective, yes. But you don't say to Marco, I need you to bat for 35 overs. That's just not going to
Mm.
happen. And if it does happen, it's going to be once in a blue moon type of thing. Um, so it depends on the situation. In a general sense, I'd rather just say to the guys, listen, you're doing so well.
Yeah.
You're doing so well batting first at top 6. You have to find a way to do it batting second. It's all it is batting first and batting second. There is not a hell of a lot of difference. You're batting on the same pitch against the same bowlers. The situation might be slightly different, but really you should be making runs. You really should be making runs. So no, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing it other than the specific occurrences that I would give when you desperately need quick runs.
Or just look at Afghanistan. Maybe we just need a whiteboard and tell guys what the targets are. It's simple. We all have internal targets. They do too. Just write it out and say, bat for the team. Don't bat for yourself. And that's what Afghanistan have done, right? It's no matter who's out there in the middle, they try to get the target. They don't try to do anything different. They don't try to be too aggressive. And you know it with Jonathan Trott, he ends the innings at over 48. It always ends at over 48. He doesn't want drama in the last 2 overs, So maybe that's how we should do it, right? Just go back to treating them like children, right? Put up the whiteboard and be like, this is what I need you to do. Just bat and get here, And they are very talented to get way more than that. But just be disciplined. And what was lacking yesterday was discipline. And so I'd like to say thank you for all the questions. They were really
Yes,
nice. It was really nice little
I think,
segment.
I think, I think it's something we must continue with. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
we'll,
It's
we'll do
good.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but what was missing yesterday, and this is the final word on that game, we just lack discipline. We just lack discipline in applying processes, in doing the right things, and bowling in the right areas. And as I said at the initial preview, Marco is the most important person in this team. If he's firing, he sets the team going forward. He wasn't, and he had a bad game, and that's okay. Lungi too.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just going to add on the just the marker thing.
mm,
This was coming, so he was going to have a bad game somewhere in the World Cup. That
mm,
and I that was fine. The issue I have with it is this was him bowling badly. This was not people smashing him around the field. This was him bowling badly and then getting smashed around the field. That's that
mm.
was that's the issue. It's not the fact that he got went for 8 nines and overs. It's the fact that he started off and said, "I'm gonna bowl a whole lot of wides, get you in, and then you can smash me all over the place." But yeah, yes, yeah. Carry on.
Yeah. So if you're not gonna come correct, if you're not gonna come for the moment, then I don't know what to do because I'd rather then send a group of guys who aren't as talented and aren't as qualified, who don't have the same amount of resources, and go there. I look at Afghanistan, and they've given every game of this World Cup a run, and they've acquitted themselves so well to the point where I'm sitting going, we should be playing them a lot more. They are very good. I look at the Netherlands. They have a never say die attitude. 7 down, scoring 150 on 2 occasions. Our cricket team, is filled with very pretty players. They play cricket in the most beautiful fashion. Even the Indian fans love them. But at the end of the day, when it matters most, they're not there. And I hope in that semi final, they prove me wrong. I will be supporting them. We will be supporting them. But I hope they prove us wrong in that semi final and that final. Because what I'm seeing right now is a reversion back to the Proteas for the last 30 odd years. Same MO. When it matters most, you hide. And I just need guys who are going to step up into the spotlight. And if it means me picking Tony DeZorzi and giving Ryan Rickleton a chance and being like, I know these guys will appreciate this moment and not necessarily hide, even though they're not as talented as the guys you have, then maybe that's the direction we need to go in. Because these superstar pretty players, when you need them most, they're not there. And that's a sad truth. Outside of that, guys, thank you very much for listening. Please share it as widely as possible. And really looking forward to hearing your comments. And yeah, let's help the full quota grow. And yeah, hope the Proteas win again on Friday against Afghanistan. If not, whew, that semi-final is going to be something else with Australia or New Zealand. It most likely will be in Australia because if Afghanistan beat them tomorrow, oh my word, Tim. Oh my word. Or if they don't show up, that's the other thing, right? But yeah, because an Australia South Africa semi final is stuff of 99 and 2007, and
It's nightmares.
both
It's
have not
nightmares.
gone the right way.
It's it's nightmare.
So
It's a nightmare.
it is what it is.
Uh,
And we're going to have to go through it. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be something. But outside of that, have a great week, everyone. We'll be back on Thursday talking 1 day, no, 4 day series recap started. And in the domestic season, people are scoring hundreds. People are putting their hands up for New Zealand. We're going to be talking about that. Outside of that, we'll be back on Monday to prepare for the semi final, talking Afghanistan, talking Australia and New Zealand, and talking a path to glory for the Proteas. Outside of that, goodbye and le sale, kakahiso.